I mocked his tiny thing during his birthday party, but then he exposed me.
Some secrets are meant to stay between two people, until one of them decides to humiliate the other in front of everyone they know. That's me. I did that. And now, as I sit here drowning in regret, I realize I never should have opened my mouth. I need help. Please, someone help me. I knew I could be stupid, but I didn't know when I let myself go so far. I just lost everything in one go. And I mean everything. But all that wouldn't matter if only I still had Simon, but he was even the first thing I lost. I am frustrated and losing my mind. It's like I don't have a life anymore and I am just living in the shadow of what my life used to be. I need advice. Please someone tell me what to do because I need to get back the man I love the most in this world. To give you perspective, I think it's best I start at the very beginning. My name is Vivian and I'm in my mid-20s, but I feel like I have lived longer than that because of the experiences I've had. I was always the kind of person that saw value in rich experiences and was willing to pay to have them, which was why my friends found it very odd when I decided to get married to Simon. Simon was more of an indoor guy. It's not that he was shy, he just preferred his space away from the rest of the world. And when we started dating till we eventually got married, I felt very special. And this was because even though he loved being alone so much, he preferred being alone with me even more. Simon was a good guy, no. He was better than good. He was great. He was civil and chivalrous. He was the type that wanted to wait for marriage before we got intimate. And that felt very sweet because he wasn't like my two exes, and every other guy I had met who wanted to have a piece of the pie from the very first day. He was different. Looking back now, I don't know what he saw in me because he was perfect, and I was this big hot mess. I had been in and out of toxic relationships, and there he was, someone who had never messed up in life and relationship, and he was interested in me. We dated for 6 months before he proposed and we got married. And on our wedding night, I was so excited. He was excited just as well. We had both been looking forward to being intimate with each other since it felt like a transformer was pumping electricity through our veins. We didn't even wait till we got back to the hotel. We started smooching from inside the car. I remember him kissing my lips so passionately and saying, "I am yours now and you are mine. We can do whatever we want." There was a fire with which he said that. It made me know that I married right. This was a man that burned for me, and I wanted to offer myself up to him as a sacrifice. We eventually got to the hotel room and we both lost our clothes. I will never forget that night because it was the beginning of my slippery slope. It was the defining moment that would set my marriage up for failure. I remember that he was so excited. He did everything right. He kissed me in the right places. He held me so tight and so close to him that I felt as if I was slowly being submerged into him. The things he did with his tongue were marvelous, but when it came down to it, when he finally whipped out his thing, it was the most disappointing thing ever. I was suddenly turned off. I don't know if it's because the guys I've dated in the past had ones that were way bigger, but the point is, my husband's own was not up to standard for me. I remember him doing everything that night, but I just laid back and almost didn't feel a thing. My brain had turned off the part of me that wanted to feel anything he did. It was clear after that night that my marriage was not going to be the most sensually active one. It's not like a full-grown man would suddenly grow a little more down there. I had never been enthusiastic about intimacy. In fact, I fought with my first boyfriend a lot because he couldn't spend a day without wanting to have his way with me at least twice. But you know what they say. You feel like you don't want something until you're no longer getting it. And that was what happened to me. It was like the fact that my husband couldn't satisfy me just made me crave for lovemaking even more. I even went to see a therapist about it, and you wouldn't believe what she said to me. She told me that it was all in my head, that size didn't matter. She asked me to get out of my own head, and believe me, I tried. That night after meeting the therapist, I tried to make love to my husband, but it still didn't work. I couldn't look past the size, and before I knew it, I found myself missing my exes, just the sexual aspects. I know, typing this already makes me feel like a terrible person. 10 months into our marriage and all I could think about was just the act. I felt like a starved animal who would eat anything they saw. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I couldn't help it. and I tried doing what any faithful partner who was suffocating as a result of unsatisfactory intimacy would do. I tried satisfying myself by myself, but that couldn't work when Simon was always running home after work. I mean, I wished so much for him to hang out more, to work more, to meet up with friends, but it was pointless. Immediately work was done, Simon would come straight home, and both our jobs closed around the same time, so there was nothing I could do. I couldn't come home first and get off before he returned. I felt like I was dying inside. It might sound melodramatic, but that is exactly how I felt. I couldn't focus on anything because everything felt chaotic. Just imagine it. Imagine an ant crawling up your back while you are trying to read. It just won't work because you have something distracting you. I communicated all this to my therapist, and she gave me another piece of advice that just made me know she wasn't the one for me. So I dropped her after that. She asked me to tell Simon how I felt. And the truth is, no matter how things turned out, it would have still been a stupid idea to tell Simon. How was I going to say it? How was I going to tell my husband that I was frustrated and starved intimately? It would break him, because there was nothing he could do. I know I'd feel bad if he came and told me that he didn't find me attractive anymore because my breasts or ass are too small. I would feel really bad, and those are things I could even go to a doctor to help with. There was no way I was going to say anything to him, so I buried everything deep down and tried to move on. But by the time we were 15 months into our marriage, I was becoming cranky, and I felt bad for being that way. One day, I finished up all my work early and hurried home like I was told that my house had a gas leak. I wanted to take my time and satisfy myself. I knew Simon didn't close from work for another hour, so I had time. But when I got home, I saw Simon lying on the couch. Ah! I screamed like an animal that suddenly stepped into a painful trap. I asked him what he was doing at home so early, and he told me that he was feeling sick, so he had to come home in the middle of the day. I couldn't believe it. I had never been so angry at someone for being sick. I openly shouted at him, telling him that this wasn't a time to be sick. I was very terrible. It's not like he could control if he fell sick or not. It just happened. He didn't understand why I was being so worked up, and I had to take care of him with a grumpy face and an even grumpier attitude for the rest of the day. And that whole week felt like a nightmare because he took a 1-week paid leave off work, meaning he would be home a lot more. And, as though that was not enough, he became a magnet to me. As long as I was in the house, he wanted to be close to me at all times. It was annoying. After he got well and went back to work, he had to do a lot of work to catch up on all the work he missed while away, so he was spending at least 2 extra hours at work. The first day he resumed after being sick, I remember him calling towards the end of my work and said to me, "Babe, I think I'll be late today." I blinked and asked with the most excited tone, "Really?" He was shocked by the upbeat enthusiasm in my voice. I knew he heard it, so I had to quickly pretend that I was saddened by this information. The whole week was great for me. I had the house to myself for 2 to 4 hours each day for the next 1 week. I took my time servicing my needs and even bought more toys that would compensate for what my husband lacked. It felt good for the time being, but after that week I became bored with all the artificials. I realized I wanted the real thing when everything I did couldn't satisfy me. But I had teased myself to the point that I felt like I was going to explode, and I realized just how desperate I was when I began anticipating Simon's return. Immediately he came in through the door. I grabbed him and took him to bed, but no matter how desperate I was, I still didn't feel anything for him. So barely 2 minutes in, I quickly sprang off of him and hurried to the living room. He followed me, asking what the problem was, but I didn't know what to tell him. I told him it was nothing, but he didn't believe me, so I had to make up an excuse that I felt my stomach hurting, so I needed to stop. Being the most understanding and kind man I have ever known, Simon didn't care about the fact that I cut our sensual moment shot. He was now concerned about my well-being. "Should we go see a doctor? Or should I get you some painkillers? What do you think is the problem?" He kept asking questions, showing care by massaging my abdomen and asking me to come lie on his lap. Simon was by far the best man I know. It made me feel horrible that I couldn't bring myself to feel something for him. We had such beautiful dynamics. He would do anything for me, and I would do anything for him. We loved each other so much. The only problem we had was this sexual incompatibility. The next day on my way to work, I saw my two exes talking to each other at a hot dog place. I couldn't believe it. How the hell do they know each other? I muttered to myself. I was in my car, so all I had to do was drive past them. I had purposely lost both their contacts, and to reconnect with them out of curiosity would just be the most stupid thing ever. But I found myself struggling with stepping on the acceleration pedal. I can't explain what it is, but I felt a pull towards them. It wasn't until a car behind me honked at me for causing a holdup that I drove off. But you could say that the seed had been planted, because throughout my time at work that day, I kept thinking about the two of them. And please, spare the self-righteousness and judgmental thoughts you're having about me as you're reading this right now. If you saw your exes that didn't know each other personally having a link up, how would you feel? I couldn't just let it slide. I found myself creating situations in my head. I was so lost in this situation that one of my friends who worked in the same office as me noticed how extremely absent-minded I was. She called my name and clapped her hands in my face before I was able to snap out of my thoughts. She asked what in the world has my mind so lost, and I just chuckled. I wanted to open up to someone, but I didn't know who to talk to. I was already shrinking inside, and now this happened. I was a ticking time bomb, just waiting to go off. I left work a little earlier that day because I needed to take some sleeping pills and calm myself with a good and long rest. But while on my way, I saw my two exes again, Derek and Josiah. What the hell? I shouted at myself and quickly pulled my car over. I couldn't handle it anymore because I was freaking furious. If these two had met and suddenly became besties to the point that they were spending an entire day together, then I was definitely in the conversation somewhere. I jumped out of the car and walked like I was going for the kills. Derek and Josiah were sitting at a table outside the restaurant. They both had their laptops in front of them. "What do you two think you're doing together?" I had asked. You should have seen how startled they were to see me. Both their eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. But Derek, who was always a smooth talker, managed to calm me down and asked what I was doing there. I told them I work close by, and I mentioned the company I work for. I guess another problem I have is keeping my mouth shut because mentioning where I work couldn't have been any less wrong. The amount of wrong decisions and unintended shortcomings that happened after that confrontation was just crazy. Josiah tried giving me his card, suggesting we hang out so they'll tell me how they met, but I didn't want any stupid card. After I made my point, I walked away in my usual fiery fashion, like I didn't care about contacting them or having anything to do with any of them. But by the time I got home, I began wondering why I didn't take the card. I don't know why, but I felt like I should have taken the card. But I knew that introducing those men back into my life would just lead me back to my chaotic lifestyle because they are nothing but trouble. I knew all this, and still, my subconscious wouldn't stop wishing that I took that card. That night, I had a dream, and it was so intense. I saw and felt Josiah running his hands over me. It felt so real, and I wanted it to be real. But I soon realized that my dream was just manifesting what was happening in real life. My husband Simon was trying to have a midnight hanky-panky, and everything I felt was real. The only difference was that I thought it was Josiah. I felt every bit of him when I was asleep, thinking I was dreaming of Josiah. But once I woke up and realized that it was actually Simone, every single sensual system in my body just shut off. I guess my therapist was right. It was all in my head. Because how the hell could I feel every inch of my husband when I thought he was Josiah? I hated myself so much for being this way, but I couldn't help it. The next day I called in that I was going to be late, and I went back to my therapist, which I had dropped, and she was quite shocked to see me again. I interrupted her session, but I didn't care. When she saw that I wouldn't wait or leave, she had to postpone her session with the client she was talking to. I knew my marriage was in danger and I needed help. You see, I made active steps to repair my marriage and help myself. It's not like I sat back and waited for my marriage to crumble. I explained what happened to my therapist, and she told me that she couldn't help me because I don't listen to instructions. And to be honest, I never did. Disappointed by my therapist's answer, I left. I went to work, and when I got there, I saw Josiah standing there with a bouquet in hand. Like I said earlier, mentioning my workplace was a very big mistake. I tried to pretend I didn't see him and walk by, but he cornered me and tried to have a chat. It was so uncomfortable for me because just the previous night I dreamt about him, and now he was standing in front of me with flowers. He suggested that we hung out, and I strictly refused. But he told me that he'd keep coming to my office every morning if I didn't go out with him, so I surrendered. We exchanged contacts and he left. He looked so happy as he walked away that I felt like I was a teenage girl again who just made my crush feel butterflies. I went about my day expecting a call from him. I don't know why, and don't judge me. That's what happens when people exchange contacts, someone calls. He didn't call, and as I was leaving work at the end of the day, I saw Derek standing outside. I couldn't believe these two men. They were taking turns in wooing me. I was flattered, but I was married. Derek tried getting me to hang out with him that night, but I told him that I had to get home. But shockingly, I never said why. That was when I realized that in all my trying to blow Josiah off that morning, I didn't mention that I was married. And even as I was trying to avoid hanging out with Derek, I still didn't tell him that the reason I needed to get home was because my husband was waiting for me. Somehow, I had forgotten to bring up my husband in both instances. He told me that he would tell me how he and Josiah knew each other. I was really interested to know that, and that was what he used to clip me. We first went to a restaurant close by and talked for a while, but what I really wanted to know was how they knew each other, and he said that they work for the same company, and the closer they got while working together, the more they figured out about each other. To be honest, I was disappointed. I thought it would be something more grand. Regardless, what happened after the two of us hanging out was just the absolute worst. I had a few drinks, enough to make my judgment impaired, but not enough to be totally crazy. Derek walked me back to my car and suggested that he drove me home because I was clearly tipsy. I refused, but he insisted, so I handed him the keys, and once he touched my hand to get it, I felt this spark of energy inside me. I guess he felt it too, because he looked at me like he had found something he was looking for. Before I knew it, he pulled me close and planted a kiss on my lips. I could have pulled away, but I didn't. Instead, I fell deeper into the kiss, feeling every single moment. That spark only grew, and the next thing, we found ourselves in my car, having the most intense moment. It felt like fire met a hurricane. It was the most consuming thing I had ever felt. After we were done, I drove home. I didn't think it would be a good idea for a man to be dropping me off that late at night. But I suppose I was just trying to cover my tracks because after all, we just had a coitus moment. "Where were you?" Those were the first words I heard when I got into the living room, and they scared the life out of me because the room was dark and I didn't know anyone was there. I quickly put on the lights and I saw Simon waiting there. That was when I realized that I didn't call him to tell him that I was going to be late. I told him that I went out for a drink with some coworkers lying on my feet. He understood, but he wasn't still happy. He emphasized on the fact that I should have called beforehand because he spent hours worried about me and anticipating my return. And instead of apologizing, I decided to gaslight him instead. I told him that when he married me, he knew that I was an outgoing person, so he shouldn't act as though I just woke up one morning and decided to become outgoing. I saw that he was unhappy, borderline angry even, and I just got angry at him too. I took my bath, and just as I went to bed, I got a text from Derek asking if I had gotten home. And after that, I got one from Josiah asking if I was still awake. Josiah asked to meet me for breakfast the next morning before I go to work. I agreed. I was already at the deep end. I didn't think I could fall any deeper. But that wasn't the case because I left the house unusually early and met him at a breakfast spot. We had breakfast and he updated me on his life. It was so sweet. And before I knew it, he kissed me. I loved every second of it. I had missed the way his lips tasted. I wanted more of it, so we suddenly found ourselves in a hotel room that morning. It was really crazy. I felt like I was on this roller coaster that was too fun to jump off. After that, I felt so alive, like I could do anything. I had not felt so revitalized in all the time I had been married. I went to work with a better attitude and did more work with ease. And that was just the beginning. Over the course of the next few weeks, I met Derek and Josiah separately and had the hottest kind of intimate moments together. But when I realized that I had fallen off the deep end was when I met the both of them for dinner. This time around, I called Simon to tell him I won't be coming back early because I didn't want any issues. While hanging out with both my exes, I asked them if they shared stories of their lives with me to each other. And they were honest. They even told me that they were aware that I was having both of them. I was surprised. And as though that wasn't surprising enough, they asked me if I would be willing to have both of them at the same time, and I couldn't believe my ears, but they were very convincing, and I decided to give it a try. So we found ourselves in a hotel room, and I must say, it was the most thrilling moment of my life. I couldn't go home that night. I went back the next morning, and Simon was furiously waiting for me. I didn't tell him I wouldn't come back that night, and he wanted to have my head. He was so furious, and I got furious. We fought that morning before he went to work. I also took my bath and went to work. I was at work when I received a call from one of Simon's friends. He said that he had been trying to get Simon to hang out with them, but he had always refused. But they wanted to have a party for him. I was confused by why they wanted to throw him a party. So I asked, and they told me that the next day was his birthday. I was so baffled, and I felt so stupid. How could I forget my husband's birthday? I had to be reminded by his friend who hadn't even seen him in a very long time. I told his friend that I would convince him, and I intended to, because once I got home that evening I tried to patch things up with Simon, but he wasn't very accepting of my truce. I then mentioned the party that his friends wanted to have for him, and I didn't even need to convince him, he just agreed. I was honestly shocked. I told his friend that he had agreed, and they were so excited. The next day, which was his birthday, was a weekend, so thankfully we didn't have to go to work, and even at that, Simon didn't stay home. I have no idea where he went to, and when he came back, I asked where he went, and he didn't answer me. I was honestly shocked by his attitude. He didn't have the right to be that angry just because I slept out one night. I got so angry at him for being childish. We went to the party in the evening, and we weren't still talking to each other. His friends were so happy to see him that they stole him from me the instant we got to the bar where they were having his party. I had a few friends who were co-workers come to the party too, but I felt alone and my mind kept drifting off to the night and spent with both Derek and Josiah together. I was completely lost now. There was no coming back or redemption for me. I took a deep breath and slowly sipped my drink as I watched them joke around and have fun. I didn't realize when I drank half a bottle of whiskey and I was no longer logical. One of his friends made a joke about how I must be enjoying the best and most complete man in the world, and I laughed hysterically and said, "I wish." Simon asked what I meant. Looking back at that moment, I wish I did two things, either shut up or even run out of the party. But no, I was drunk and feeling playful. So I told them that Simon was a good man, but he wasn't a complete man, because his thing was so tiny that I couldn't feel it. Everyone laughed at him. I knew I was drunk, but I still don't know why I said that. "Is that why you are banging two dudes at the same time?" He suddenly answered and I froze. Everyone was shocked by his utterance. I was stunned, but I needed to save face. I immediately asked him what he was talking about, denying the accusations which I called absurd. And that was when he decided to disgrace even more. He shouted at me, telling me to shut up. He said he had known for the longest time, that he came to take me out to dinner when he saw me and Derek talking in front of my office. He said he followed us and saw us doing it in the car that he bought for me as a wedding gift. I was startled. I realized that I had been the fool and not him. I realized that Simon knew from the very first day it began. His friends could not believe what they were hearing. They asked me if it was true, and I couldn't even say anything. I just sat still like a mummy. I tried to save face in front of his many friends, and I playfully said, "Come on, babe, don't joke like that." I was trying to make him not embarrass me right there in front of all his friends, but he didn't care about helping me save face. He didn't care. He told me that he knew I could be stupid and loose, but he didn't know I could be that way. I couldn't believe the words my husband was addressing me with. He said that when I was cheating on him, he couldn't believe it. But then I had to go all out and do two men at the same time. I couldn't be disgraced in such a manner, so I asked him for the proof. claiming that he was just accusing me of things I never did. He laughed and said that I am the worst person he has ever known. He mentioned that I gaslighted him every chance I got just to look good while making him look like the bad one, and that just that evening I was already insulting and embarrassing him in front of his friends. I didn't want to do this, but since you've decided to disgrace me, I will do the same. You asked for proof. Here is your proof. He showed a video of me on his phone doing it with Derek in the car. Then he showed a picture of me kissing Josiah at the breakfast restaurant. Then the pictures of me kissing the two of them at the entrance of the hotel room where we did it. I covered my mouth in disbelief. I felt like such a fool. I was busy thinking I had him fooled. Every day I came back and I accused him of being stuck up and clingy just because I wanted him to stop being in my case. At that point, I quickly sobered up. I tried to gaslight him again by asking him if he was stalking me, but once I said it, I heard his friends tutting and tisking in absolute disappointment. The eyes they looked at me with were absolutely horrifying. Everyone saw me as a monster. Some of them began muttering, "How could you?" But I had no answer. I couldn't say anything. I was so embarrassed and in complete shock. I tried apologizing, but the words didn't come out of my mouth. Simon shook his head and walked away, leaving me there with his friends. They looked at me like I was this horrible human who just killed their friend. I ran out, hoping to go talk to Simon personally, but before I could get there, he had gotten into the car and driven off. I had to call an Uber to take me home, and even when I got there, Simon wasn't there because his car wasn't there. I couldn't believe the world as I knew it was crashing around me. I realized I wasn't with my key, so I looked for the spare where we hid it, and it wasn't there as well. My phone rang and I picked it up. It was my sister-in-law. Her only words to me were, "How dare you?" After which she ended the call. Once she said that, I knew that she now knew of my infidelity. I sat on the floor and cried my eyes out. I have single-handedly destroyed everything I held dear. My future, my family, everything. Please, I need someone to tell me how to get my husband back. I don't know what to do. I'm completely lost. Update. Hello everyone. The last time I was here, I poured my heart out to all of you in hopes of getting advice, but what I got from you all was nothing helpful. Instead, I got hate and backlash. Some of you called me an unremorseful tramp. The amount of name-calling I received is just unnecessary. Sure, I made a lot of mistakes and I was unable to control myself, but that doesn't mean I am all the things you guys called me. I'm not a terrible person. I just made terrible choices. Anyways, my life went absolutely south from that night. It was a continuous downward slope. I spent the whole weekend outside the house hoping that Simon would return, but he didn't. It was unbelievable. On Monday morning, I needed to get to work and I didn't have anywhere to go and freshen up. I couldn't even go to a hotel because I wasn't with my card. I left them in my purse, which I forgot inside Simon's car. It was completely unbelievable. I had to swallow my pride and go to Derek's place in hopes of taking my bath. I told him what happened and he felt sorry for me. Sure, he allowed me to use his bathroom, but then he came into the bathroom while I was there, hoping to get some. I couldn't believe this fellow. I pushed him away and got out of the bathroom, then jumped into one of his shirts and the skirt I came in and hurried out. Turns out he and Josiah were only interested in what they could get from me. I went to work and my so-called friends that came to the birthday party had spread the news of my wild lifestyle around the office. I couldn't look anyone in the face. People wouldn't stop talking behind my back. I went home after work and I saw all my things in front of the house as well as divorce papers. Our divorce was rigorous and bitter. He wanted to keep everything, which I thought was just absurd. But I'm the end. He won. He got the house, both cars, his and mine. What's worse is, I didn't get to see him throughout the process. His lawyer handled everything. And the most stupid, petty, and ironic thing was that his lawyer was my sister. And she was unbelievably ruthless. She was suing me for damages against Simon. Completely unbelievable. She told me I was an embarrassment to the family and that my mother never wants to see me again because my father had a heart attack when he got the news of what I did. I have been excommunicated from my family and my husband's family now sees me as a monster. Work was a lot worse because I had gotten into physical altercations with co-workers who wouldn't stop gossiping about me and even insulting me to my face. I was fired. and the apartment I rented alone was beginning to look like I would have to move out since I wouldn't be able to renew my rent when I run through my savings. Like I said, my life went south, a straight nosedive. You know what's funny? I haven't felt that insatiable need since Simon embarrassed me in front of all his friends. By the way, I still haven't seen Simon till today. I think he sold the house or rented it out because I see some people there when I pass by. I don't know where he moved to. Anyways, I'm still looking for a job, so I need to be focused, and I can't do that if I keep getting messages of insults and hate from you all. So I'm going to be leaving this social media and I will not be coming back. Thank you all for taking the time to read my lamentations. Anyways, I need to focus on building my life back up. Goodbye.
Hey Reddit, my name is Camille, 33 female, married to Wilson, 37 male, for 13 years. I'm writing this post because I really have no clue what I should do about the current situation I am in. To tell a long story short, I had an affair that my husband came to know about. He filmed us and now is blackmailing me to pay him $150,000 to not expose it. I'm feeling overwhelmed and scared about the consequences of my actions. I need guidance on how to handle this delicate situation and move forward in the best way possible. I'm seeking advice on how to navigate this difficult situation and repair the trust that has been broken in my marriage. I want to find a solution that is fair to both myself and my husband, while also ensuring that our relationship can heal and grow stronger from this experience. I had an almost perfect life before I even decided to have an affair. Wilson and I met in college and started dating each other. Once we finished college, we decided to get married. I was pregnant with my first baby when I was just 20, but we decided to keep it. We both were strong believers in not killing a child. Luckily, Wilson had been offered to work for a big company in sales that helped us financially to grow our family. I was grateful for Wilson to be so supportive in all the decisions I took. As the years progressed, we were able to buy our own house and move in with our son. We had a beautiful life together. I took care of the house and our son Harry, while Wilson took care of the finances. We had a great understanding of our responsibilities, so there was very little friction or interference from each other. Our teamwork and mutual respect for each other's roles allowed us to thrive both personally and professionally. Wilson's hard work in sales continued to provide for our family, while I focused on creating a loving home environment for us all. When Harry turned 10, we decided to move him into a boarding school for a better education. Harry was smart and academically very bright. We had high hopes from him and knew that if he had the right guidance and training, he would be able to become someone successful. With Harry moving out of the house, there was not much for me to do around the house. I had dedicated my entire time in Harry's upbringing, so once he left home, I barely had anything left for me to do. I shared my concerns with Wilson, but there was nothing he could do apart from being understanding. I was the one who was supposed to figure out what to do in all this free time that I now had at my hands. Wilson was always busy on business trips, which started making me feel lonely. I never realized that for the past 10 years, my life had been revolving around Wilson and Harry. I did not have much going on in my life apart from taking care of the house and making sure to provide every comfort that I could think of for Wilson and Harry. The more I looked back on the past 10 years, all I could see was me doing something or the other for either Wilson or Harry. Now that Harry was in a boarding school and Wilson pretty much wasn't around, I decided to invest my time in grooming myself and doing things that I enjoyed. I sat and made a note of things that would make me happy and keep me busy. I figured that I did not have a lot of interests that involved just me. I felt like I needed to rediscover myself, as the only identity I had left was as a wife and a mother. I started taking up new hobbies and exploring different interests that I had set aside for all these years. It was refreshing to focus on myself and my own personal growth for a change. I realized that rediscovering myself was essential for my own happiness and well-being. After trying out various things like pottery, book club, yoga, and aerobics, I finally found a new hobby which I had completely forgotten about, which was learning to play the piano. I knew the basics as I grew up taking a few piano classes. I thought of making a good use of my free time by doing something productive, which I enjoyed at the same time. I thought of taking my hobby and converting it into a skill that I could flaunt. I discussed it with Wilson, who was nothing but supportive, and was glad that I was making use of my time in a better way. One of my friends recommended her kid's piano teacher to me. I thought of hiring him to save myself from the hassle of searching for a new teacher. We spoke over the phone, and he told me that he would have to assess my skills before he could accept me as his student. I was a little taken aback by this approach of his, but I guess any good teacher would have said the same thing. We had agreed to set up a session after 2 days at 11 in the morning and take it from there once he was satisfied. So I had 2 days to practice my piano skills to impress my teacher, who I hadn't met so far. On the day, I felt very nervous, as if I was taking a test and I had no other option but to pass. My piano teacher, Samuel, was a young man around 28, lean and looked like a kid. I did not know if this was a good idea, as I did not know how well he would be able to handle teaching an adult. He looked very serious about his profession, so I thought, why not give it a try and see how things go? After the initial greetings, he asked me to play a piece that I thought I could play. He was very derogatory in his remarks and looked like he knew it all. I decided to let it slide and focus on my piece. After I was done, I looked at his face, which looked dissatisfied. I was not very keen on continuing to hire him to teach me. He said that it was okay and he could work with it. I hated his arrogance and lack of professionalism, but I decided to give him another chance. I made it clear that his attitude needed to improve if we were going to continue working together. He didn't have a choice but to agree, as I was the one who would be paying him for his services. We decided on the time and days, and I told him very clearly that it was a temporary arrangement and would only become permanent once I was satisfied by his classes. I couldn't stop myself from letting Wilson know about how the trial session went. I was on the phone with Wilson and narrated the whole scenario to him. He told me to find someone else if I was unhappy with Samuel. I agreed with Wilson and told him that for the time being, I would make do with Samuel, and once I found someone better, I could easily replace him. It was reasonable, so Wilson just left it to me to deal with it. I was to have classes with Samuel 4 days a week, since I still wanted to keep my weekends free for Wilson. I decided to give Samuel a chance and see how things went. I knew that finding a new tutor would take time, so I was willing to make it work with Samuel for the time being. Though I was not a big fan of the way he treated me, I decided to continue learning from him till I found someone suitable who could replace him. I hoped that with time, Samuel would improve his teaching style and our dynamic would become more positive. Additionally, I made a mental note to start looking for a new tutor in case things did not improve. Over the days, Samuel became a little softer towards his approach while talking to me. I was still searching for a tutor, since I was not very open to taking criticism from Samuel. His remarks were very non-professional and felt more like personal jibes than anything to do with my piano skills. The only reason I continued to tolerate Samuel was that he was really a good teacher. He knew a lot of tricks and easy methods which could help me improve my skills drastically. Every time Wilson would come back from one of his trips, I would prepare a piece to play for him to show him how much I have improved. As always, he would be in awe and tell me how proud he was of me. My piano skills kept improving, and so did the physical attraction between me and Samuel. With Wilson staying away more than ever, I could not help but keep thinking about Samuel. The way he looked at me, his soft hands and his breath on my neck while showing me the correct keys. I could not focus on anything else when he would sit next to me and show me how to hit a certain key. As our connection deepened, I found myself eagerly anticipating our next lesson, savoring every moment we spent together at the piano. The music seemed to come alive under his guidance, and I couldn't deny the growing feelings I had for him. I also noticed that Samuel looked at me with great intensity in his eyes, as if he knew that there was going on between us. I could see that he was trying too hard not to get carried away and focus on just doing his job. It had been more than 2 months since Samuel had started teaching me. Wilson was out on a business trip for the next 15 days, and I had no idea how I could control myself from not trying to make moves on Samuel. The thought that we would be alone for the next 15 days, at least the days he would be coming for the classes, was killing me on the inside. I don't know why, but I was really curious to know if Samuel felt the same way about me. Not that it would have mattered, because I was very clear in my head that I did not want to do anything that would jeopardize my marriage or the trust that Wilson had in me. I was so uneasy and wanted to know if the feelings were mutual. The next day, I decided to dress up a little more than usual to check out Samuel's feelings for me. While we were having a small conversation, I slowly slipped in the fact that Wilson was out on a trip for the next 15 days, and I would have to be at home all by myself. I could see that he was suddenly interested in everything that I was saying. He started teaching me a new piece, and I purposefully kept making the same mistake, as I wanted him to hold my hand and show it to me. As we continued to practice together, I could feel the tension between us growing. I knew that my plan to gauge Samuel's feelings was working, and I couldn't help but feel excited about where this might lead. We started kissing each other, and slowly things became hot and exciting. We were passionately kissing each other, and clothes flew in the air, and within minutes we were on top of each other. We were exhausted and realized that we were in the bedroom and had no clue how we got there. We started laughing as we knew that this sexual tension had been building up for such a long time, and now it finally released. We both agreed that it was worth the wait, and we spent the rest of the night exploring each other's bodies and emotions. It was a night neither of us would ever forget, filled with passion and connection that we had both been longing for. The next 15 days were bliss for me and Samuel. Every day we would go out shopping, eating out, or exploring fancy hotels with spas and other facilities. I was trying my best to pamper Samuel. I wanted to show him how much he meant to me and how happy I was to finally be with him. Our time together was filled with laughter, love, and unforgettable memories that I knew would last a lifetime. Wilson was back, and I had to act as if nothing great happened in the days he was away from me. Wilson did ask me if I was going to continue my classes with Samuel and not think of switching to a different teacher. I told him that we had resolved our issues and he was a great teacher, so I guess I did not need a change. I was a little nervous when William mentioned Samuel. Maybe it was the sudden rush of guilt that engulfed me. I could see how much Wilson trusted me, and I had been taking a lot of advantage of it lately. He was not a bad husband. He was just too busy to make money to make sure that his wife and son could live a comfortable life. It was not his fault at all. But I knew deep down that I needed to make things right and be honest with him about my feelings. I couldn't continue to deceive him and take advantage of his trust. I needed to have an open and honest conversation with Wilson about how I was feeling, even if it meant risking our relationship. It was time to address the situation head on and make things right before it was too late. I was in two minds whether I should let Wilson know about the affair and ask him to forgive me for crossing the line, or I should continue having an affair with Samuel without Wilson getting to know about it. I couldn't make up my mind, so I decided to go with the flow and deal with it when the time comes. Wilson was out on another trip and sent me a text asking me to keep myself available over the weekend as he had something important to discuss with me. Wilson never sent me such a text, so I was a little nervous about what he had to say. Maybe it was about Harry, as he would soon be finishing with his semester and would be coming home for the summer. I knew that I did not have a reason to worry about anything. I was very confident that Wilson had no idea about me and Samuel. I told myself not to think of negative scenarios in my head. Maybe Wilson just wanted to talk about our next vacation with Harry. He might need my help in choosing the destination, hotels, and activities. I decided not to call Samuel for a class just as a precaution. It's better to be safe than sorry, right? I spent the rest of the day distracting myself with work and errands, trying to push away any lingering doubts. As the hours passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the nagging worry in the back of my mind. To put myself at ease, I made an extra effort to pick Wilson from the airport. I don't remember the last time I did it. He was obviously surprised to see me. He kissed me and held me tight for a long time. This was the man I knew who I fell in love with. On one hand, I really felt bad for cheating on him, but on the other hand, I couldn't get enough of Samuel. I know I was sailing in two boats, but I couldn't help myself. I knew I had to decide soon before things got even more complicated. Wilson deserved honesty and respect, and I needed to figure out what I truly wanted in the long run. I needed to confront my feelings and make a decision before hurting anyone further. It was time to have an honest conversation with both Wilson and Samuel to sort out my emotions and make a choice. I was dying to know what Wilson wanted to talk about. He started the conversation with how I had been all these days without him. Frankly, I wanted to let him know about my affair with Samuel, as I was feeling too guilty about it. Seeing Wilson in front of me was making me realize what a shitty person I had been to him. He asked me how Samuel was doing. It came as a surprise that the most important thing Wilson wanted to talk about was about Samuel. He asked me if Samuel had been enjoying all the pampering that I was doing. My world came crashing down once I realized that Wilson was aware of my affair with Samuel. I couldn't get words out of my mouth, as I had no reason to go and cheat on my husband to begin with. I could not believe that Wilson knew about the affair for such a long time and took no action. He did not try to have an argument or accuse me or confront me about it. He told me that he doesn't mind me having an affair with whoever I like. The problem he has is with me spending his hard-earned money on my lovers. He asked me to look at the folder with all the details of the items that I had spent on since I started the affair. Wilson said that he would leave me alone if I repaid him for all our expenses that he had spent his money on. I could not believe that all Wilson cared about was the money. He did not even feel any emotional discomfort that his wife was cheating on him. I told him that maybe him being so nonchalant was the reason I wanted to have an affair in the first place. Of course, it hurt me that it didn't matter to him even a bit that I was having an affair. I did not know if I wanted him to feel bad and heartbroken about it. I was very angry and told him that there was no way I would be paying him for anything. He laughed and told me to be careful with what I would be saying next. His laugh was sinister and was creeping me out. I knew that there was something big that he had under his sleeve which I wasn't aware of. I could feel the tension between us growing, and I realized that this situation was far from over. It was clear that there were more secrets and surprises yet to be revealed. Wilson told me that he would give me some time to collect my thoughts and make the best argument that I could to defend myself for having an affair. He said that he gave it a lot of thought and could hardly come up with a very good reason for it. He was not a cruel or wicked husband who mistreated his wife. He provided her with all the freedom and liberty to follow her passions and dreams. I knew that it was like a trick question where he wanted me to express all my emotions so that he could assess my emotional stability and then come up with something to hurt me. I did not want to indulge in his petty games, so I stood mum and waited for him to reveal whatever it was that he was so excited about. He asked me to walk with him downstairs to show me a magic trick. I was not very amused by this conversation that was now going haywire. He put on the TV and told me to see if I had already watched the show he was going to put on. I was confused as to where this conversation was moving. As he was busy trying to get everything together to start, I was getting annoyed and about to give up when I noticed that it looked very familiar to our house. He started playing the clip, which was the recording of our very own house. It seemed like a very old recording. It started with Samuel walking in on his regular time of classes. We started playing the piano for a while. He gave me a few instructions and then sat down beside me to teach me something new. After a while, we started kissing each other and forgot about the entire session. We started undressing each other, and that's where Wilson paused the video. He just looked at me and said that he could continue showing me the entire recording if I started enjoying myself while watching it. Obviously, I was embarrassed, guilty, and felt like crap at that moment. I did not know if it was a good idea to reason with Wilson at this point, so I decided to keep quiet. He asked me to pay back every penny that I had been spending in the guise of being bored while enjoying Samuel. All the expensive gifts, trips to spas, and resorts were all being enjoyed with his money, and now he wanted it all back. I told Wilson that he was being unreasonable as he knew that I don't have that kind of money. He just said that I should have thought about all of this once I decided to start cheating on him. He said he doesn't care where I get the money from. Wilson did not care what I did to come up with the money. He told me to beg, borrow, steal, or ask my lover to pay up since he was the one enjoying all the luxuries that Wilson was providing us with. Wilson told that he was going to be generous and give me a month's time to make sure I arranged money. If not, he would circulate this clip and many other recordings that he had in his possession to everyone who even remotely knows about me. He just picked up all of his stuff and walked to the study room. I could not handle the way he was being so calm and composed about this whole situation. I was mad at him for not being angry or agitated with the fact that I had an affair. All he cared about was the money. So Reddit, here I am getting blackmailed by my own husband to pay him for not exposing my affair. I mean, there were a million different ways in which he could have handled this situation. How could he care more about the money than the trust and emotions that are related to a relationship? I am not in a position to be able to come up with the insane amount of money that Wilson has quoted. I have never earned a penny in my entire life, so there was no way that I would be able to arrange for $150,000 in a month. I need your help and support to deal with the situation I am in. I don't see a way out of this. I would request anyone to give me any ideas on how to convince Wilson to try and forget everything and start over. Update. Just a recap on the previous events. Wilson caught me and Samuel, my affair, on tape and has been blackmailing me ever since to give him $150,000 to leave me alone. Of course, it's a lot of money, and obviously there is no way I stashed away so much cash to just throw it on his face and get it over with. Wilson would come up with new jargons and abbreviations to humiliate me every day. Also, he would give me a countdown every day to let me know the number of days I had to come up with that money. I spoke to Samuel about Wilson getting to know about the affair. I also told him that he has demanded to give him $150,000 if I do not want a clip of our intimate actions to be released to all the people I know. He was basically blackmailing me into coming up with a load of money which I did not have. Samuel listened to me and asked me not to worry about it as we could figure something out. I felt a little reassured that at least I was not alone in all this mess. I had someone who I could rely on and come out of this situation. Samuel told me that he needed some time to think about what we could do, and that he would get back to me once he finds a suitable solution. I was grateful for his support and knew that together we could find a way to handle the situation. Samuel's calm demeanor gave me hope that things would eventually work out in my favor. I advised him to stop coming home as Wilson was hovering over me since the time he got back. It would be better if he doesn't see us together, at least till the time this problem is cooled down. It had been a week and Samuel had not sent me a single text. I knew he might be worried about the money, but he should at least have a minute to send me a text letting me know what was happening. I kept trying to reach Samuel, but the calls kept being diverted to voicemail. Maybe he was trying to arrange the money, and that was the reason why he wasn't picking up my calls. I was so desperate right now, and I couldn't think straight. It had been 2 days since Samuel stopped answering my calls. I had no clue where he was, and I just realized that I didn't even know where he lived. It suddenly struck me that Wilson had a problem with me, and not with Samuel. Samuel had nothing to worry about since there was hardly anyone who knew him in my circle. The realization of me being dumped by the person I was having an affair with hurt me. I guess I can't expect someone to be loyal to me when I myself was cheating on my husband who trusted me blindly. Karma does come back to bite you when you least expect it. The pain of betrayal hit me hard as I reflected on my own actions. It was a harsh lesson in the consequences of infidelity. I was running out of time and had no money. I decided to beg for forgiveness and ask Wilson to give me another chance. I would be the best wife in the whole wide world. To my surprise, Wilson agreed to give me a chance. I guess he still trusted me somewhere in a corner of his heart. I was very happy and decided to forget about Samuel and start a new chapter with Wilson. I promised Wilson that I would never let him down. I knew I had to make the most of this second chance and prove to Wilson that I could change for the better. I was determined to show him that I was capable of being the loving and supportive wife he deserved. Harry was home for the summer break. He would be with us for the next 2 months and also spend Christmas with us. We went on a holiday with Harry to see the Northern Lights. In the rush to get to the airport on time, I forgot my phone at home. Wilson said that it would be okay as anyone who would have wanted to reach me could always call Wilson. I thought that this was my chance to prove my loyalty to Wilson so that things would go back to the way they were. I decided not to think about having my phone on me and give my 100% attention to Wilson and my lovely son, Harry. This was a great opportunity for me to spend time with him as I get to see him only during summer break. I realized that being fully present in the moment with my loved ones was more important than constantly checking my phone. It felt liberating to disconnect and focus on making memories with Wilson and Harry. We came back after a 10-day trip. Wilson had made arrangements to have the house decorated by the time we reached home. It all looked so beautiful and pretty. It was Christmas, and everything matched the theme so well. I could now feel that everything was falling into place, and very soon, me and Wilson would go back to our old ways. I couldn't help but feel grateful for Wilson's thoughtfulness and effort. The festive decorations brought a sense of warmth and joy to our home, setting the perfect mood for the holiday season. The decorations brought a sense of warmth and coziness to the house, making it feel like a true home. I couldn't wait to spend the holiday season surrounded by such beauty and tranquility. We had a party and all the guests had arrived. Wilson toasted and as usual started a speech. He was reminiscing about all our old times and said that he was very grateful to have me as his wife. I believe that this was his cue of letting me know that he was ready to forgive and forget. I was enjoying all the attention that I was getting from Wilson. I never knew that such a good evening was soon going to turn into a nightmare. He then started a presentation of our pictures right from our college days till our recent holiday in Finland. I could not believe when Wilson arranged all of this all by himself, without me even having a single clue about it. He concluded his speech and was about to wrap up, but he said that he forgot another aspect of my life which barely anyone knew about. I could not wait for what was coming. He called me on stage and started a video. It was a video of me and Samuel having sex on the piano. I could hear loud gasps from everyone attending the party. Harry ran to his room with tears in his eyes. He refused to open the door. After banging on his door for a few hours, he finally opened the door and asked me to stay away from him. He said that he only wanted to talk to his dad. I could hear his muffled sobs from outside the door, and I knew he needed space to process his emotions. I respected his wishes and left him alone with his thoughts. I don't know what Wilson told Harry, but after that day, Harry did not even want to look at me. It was clear that whatever Wilson said had a significant impact on Harry. Despite feeling hurt by his sudden distance, I knew it was important to give him the time and space he needed to work through his feelings. I decided to reach out to Wilson to try and understand what had transpired between them, hoping for some clarity. Wilson explained that he had simply encouraged Harry to open up about his feelings, which seemed to have triggered a strong emotional response from him. This new information helped me better understand the situation and allowed me to make up my mind about getting a divorce. We got a divorce as I did not want to live with a person who would humiliate me in public. The battle for custody began. Since Harry was 11, he had the right to choose the parent he wanted to stay with. Harry said that I did not care about him after he went to boarding school. I never called him and was happy that he was away so that I could continue going out with other people. I was very sure that all this was fed into his brain by Wilson. It was a sick move to use our son against me. He was poisoning a son against his own mother. It was as low as he could get. No points for guessing. Wilson won the custody battle by proving my affair and the fact that Harry did not want to live with me. I neither had a job or a decent place to live, so there was no way that I would have got custody. Despite losing custody, I made it a priority to rebuild my relationship with my son and work on becoming a better parent. I focused on finding stable employment and securing a suitable living situation to eventually regain custody in the future. I went to meet Harry at his school so that I could clear his head of all the evil things Wilson must have fed him. I received a restraining order from Wilson not to ever try and meet Harry again. I lost my rights to see him over the weekend as well. Maybe I was too greedy in my relationship as well. I was happy with Wilson. The only problem was that he was unable to give me enough time. Apart from that, he never treated me disrespectfully or in a demeaning manner till the time he came to know about the affair. Even now, because of my greed to see my son, I lost the only chance of being able to spend time with him. I regret my actions and wish I had prioritized my relationship with Wilson and my son over my own desires. I now understand the consequences of my choices and hope to learn from this experience moving forward. I feel so lonely, as if I'm going into a dark hole with no outlet. It feels like I have no way out of my misery. I had ruined a good life with my own hands. I got too greedy and ungrateful for everything that I had and wished for more, which eventually led to everything falling apart. I lost friends, family, and a home. My sister had disowned me for my actions. She said that she would never be able to call me her sister after seeing me be so shameless and guilt-free for my actions. I am filled with regret and remorse for the pain I have caused my loved ones. I realize now the importance of gratitude and humility in life, and I am determined to make amends and rebuild what I have lost. To the people reading this story so far, please be grateful to the life you have right now. If any thoughts that could lead to ruining your relationships cross your mind, please remind yourself that people have it much worse than you. That is the only advice I would give people. Life is precious and should be cherished, so remember to count your blessings and appreciate what you have. By focusing on gratitude and perspective, you can cultivate healthier relationships and a more positive outlook on life. Thank you everyone for being there for me when I needed it the most. I know that it is going to be difficult to pick up the pieces of my life and start over. I'm not going to lose hope in trying to work out my relationship with Harry, in the hopes for good times to come. Signing off.